if people have missed it, they can watch it. Um, and we will give it another minute or so if we've got any latecomers, and then we will crack on. Da, da, da. All right. Okay, we'll get started, and then I can always let people in as we roll on through. So, guys, thank you so much for coming. I am Morgan, one of the mentors from the Winning Cocks, and what's really cool and exciting for this evening is we have got a special guest mentor. We've got Katie with us from the USA for this Head of the Charles webinar. Now, if you don't know, go away and Google it because Katie has got some incredible racing experience and there's some really impressive caliber within there. So if I was to fangirl anyone right now that we could have come and deliver this webinar with us, it would definitely be Katie. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for adjusting with the times with us. And yeah, all right, we will begin. Uh,
Oh, I'm running the slides.
that's
Sorry.
okay. Okay, guys, so a big Wox thing is that our objective as coxes is that we need to put the boat in the best water that's going to allow our rowers to do their best rowing. And I think you've got to think about the Head of the Charles as it's about as un-English as it gets. It is a Formula One track. We're all about driving the exit angle. There's these 90-degree turns. You want to be on the inside of the turns if you can get to them, setting ourselves up so we're almost driving through our future self, not necessarily driving what's immediately in front of us, which goes against the grain of the kind of smooth and steady and just keep running kind of English approach to head racing and racing in general. So it's a pretty exciting one. And if that forefront is of your mind about putting the boat in the best water, then that's going to give you your best opportunity. So hopefully this evening you can leave this webinar and you're going to have an understanding or a bit of a brief understanding of the logistics for race day, the warming up, the kind of protocols around that, thinking about the buoys, the buoy lines, how much you can or cannot cross them. We'll go through the course, any kind of key markers, any landmarks, headings, the best line, and we'll do a little bit about sort of tips for overtaking, where is a good time to overtake, where really isn't a good time to overtake, and how you actually almost jockey the position of your hull around so that your future self can be in the right place. This is you. Here we go.
Okay, I'm ready. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so race logistics, as we said, it is like an F1 track. And the good news is, while there is technically the race is run upstream, the river is dammed, the stream is minimal. And this is really just find your best line. Do not worry about stream. Don't worry about current. Like you just want to go fastest point A to point B safely. Um, in terms of what you can do within the course, for the buoys, you have a white buoy line. Everything short of the hull can cross those buoys. So you can glide them under the riggers, and everything can go over except for that. Orange, nothing can cross. We'll see some photos when we come around like the big, what we call the big turn, coming up to Elliott Street Bridge, where you will see that's where, for the most part, that's the biggest place where orange buoys are in play that you really need to be careful, warming up and racing. Another thing, depending on when you race in over the course of the weekend, this is a bigger risk the later your race is people get caught up in the buoy lines and they can pull them out of alignment. Wherever the buoys are, that is the course when you go by. And so there will be 10 million volunteers lining the banks, watching and noting any infractions. So one, you'll get caught, and two, make sure you're looking on the natural line of the buoys as it's set up, but in case anything is drifting in or out. So you have to be ready for that. That's where penalties can come, warm up and in the race, but then also penalties come through creating a collision. So those are the things you need to think about for fastest line to point A to point B. Overtaking. When you are passing the crew, which is the passer, um, closes down to within one length of open water on the boat ahead being overtaken, it's responsibility of the slower crew to yield the line to the chosen passer. So if you are overtaking, you have to make sure that it's very clear where you are going and hold that line. If you're bouncing around and coming up on someone and they can't tell where they should go, there are so many umpires that they will know. Someone will have seen what's happening. But you have to make it really clear where you are going so they know where to get out of. You have to complete the overtaking once you've gone up a length. And then you can see I don't need to read all of this to you, but there are infractions of 60 seconds, 2 minutes, or a third one is you're disqualified from the regatta if you're really out of control, which I hope that never happens. I think what's new at the bottom, and this is just something to think about, it's a responsibility of the passer to complete the pass, while also understanding the chosen line when initiating the pass may not continue to be the preferred line. And so I tell me what you think about this, Morgan, if I'm like reading this correctly. What I imagine is you have to think of not only where you are and where you're passing, but where also you need to be 500 meters, 1,000 meters from now, so that you're not overtaking and the other crew gets out of the way. And then you're like, actually, no, I need to be way over here. And you're just cutting people off left and right. You have to really anticipate where you both need to be for the pass, but then also about 500 meters beyond that. Is that how you're reading that,
Yeah,
Morgan?
and I also think as well it's about your if you're the faster crew, you obviously want to keep going. Now, if the crew that you're hoping is going to yield and move out the way, you know, ends up going the wrong direction that you were hoping they had gone, and there's still room for you to pass, then you should continue and pass. What you don't want
Mm.
to do is kind of then proceed to run into them, something like that. It's much it's much faster for you to kind of continue, and you might be, I don't know, a meter out of where you're trying to go, because if you're looking ahead, you're going to give yourself that best opportunity anyway for the heading or for the future that you're trying to drive into. Um, so I think it's just sometimes, even though we might be the faster crew, we can be a bit stubborn, and I think it's just, be sensible.
Oh no. Are you still seeing? Shoot.
That's all right.
I hit the wrong thing. Okay.
Cool.
Hmm. Is this okay. Sorry. My computer froze. Okay, so getting in the last place is the warm-up area. You will launch from many different places along the course, which we'll go over as we go around. But the big thing is the warm-up area before the start, everyone will participate in. Um, a couple things. Check the weather. Usually the prevailing wind is this will be a headwind at the start. So what happens is all of the water really gets pushed down the basin, piling up, excuse me, by the Mass Ave Bridge at the far end of this warm-up area. If it's going to be windy, it will be rough there. Bring some sponges, bring that you can sort of bail out any water that gets in the boat. You can wring them out, put them in the bottom, but be ready for that. It's very hectic. And again, you will have many, many launches of very loud volunteers pushing you to keep moving. Their goal is to keep moving. They don't care whether you needed to get one more 10 in or not. So as you come in, I would anticipate it being chaotic. So think about, do you have a couple more bursts left? Where are you going to take them? Where is a safe place for you to pull over if your crew needs to strip down, take one last drink, all of that. As you go up, they want you to do the big loop all the way around this restricted area. So once you get up, you're like, oh, here's the start, but you need to go all the way around. And you're not meant to cut through. So include time here, add another 10 minutes to get all the way around. You get lined up in odds and evens. They split you into two lines coming into the chute. But the big thing here is it will be busy. So pull off to the side if you can, strip down, get your water, get into the layers they'll be racing in, and then get maybe one more burst in going downstream. But as soon as you take this turn, sort of anticipate that you won't be able to take any more really productive strokes in your warm up. It really needs to be done by the time you're up here.
Yeah, I think have an idea of, if it's really busy and it's really slow moving, what's the minimum that I want to get done? And that might be that you might have to do some pauses, but it's quite firm pressure. So the rate's low, but it's pretty long, it's pretty driven, and you might get one or two bursts in, and that's okay. You'll roll with that. So depending on where you've come from, have a think about, what am I going to have access to? Are there some ergs around? If you're boating from Fells, like it's going to be a bit busier. They're going to be in more like standstill traffic for a while. We know there's some construction work that's going on around Elliott Bridge, so it's going to send you a little bit wider. I think Katie can kind of talk a bit more about
Mhm.
that. So there will be sections where it will take a bit of time. Once we get on that sort of after Weeks Bridge coming up towards the starting area, it's usually a bit wider and there's usually a bit more room.
Mhm.
And so just thinking about like naturally instinctive of if it looks like there's a bit more room, you can probably get a bit more done there. And if it's really busy, then our priority is always that element of safety. And listen to, I know there are a lot of kind of helpers, umpires, marshals, volunteers, but listen to them and lots of pleases and thank yous because they are giving up their time, but also they're trying to help you out. What we don't
Mhm.
want is it's very easy to say the wrong thing, and then you have A, made someone else's day not very good, but also B, you're going to expose yourself to time penalties or disqualification. And that's what we want. We're all here for a good time, we're here for a good laugh, and we're trying to help each other out a little bit.
Yes, to all of that. The I would also adding on to all of what Morgan said, prep your rowers for this. It is chaotic. It's a lot of start and stop, and have that clear definition of what do we need to be ready to row on the starting line. Particularly younger crews get really in their heads, and it's like you want to be a little sweaty, and you want to have had a couple strokes where you're like, oh, I recognize this. This is our rhythm. My muscles are ready. I'm remembering what it feels like when we're on our rhythm. That's what you need. And it will be loud. There'll be a lot of people bossing you around. Have them just listen to you. You are calm. You're in control. You set the pace of the warm up. Okay.
Cool. Okay. We are going to go through the course. If you haven't seen a map, here's a map of the course. We've got some awesome turns. There are some long stretches. Take advantage of those straight areas. And we spoke about it being like an F1 track. There are some really tight apexes of the turns here. They've got some 90-degree turns. We've got some very long turns, and we're all about driving our exit angle and where we want to be in the future. So as we go through this now, we'll break that up a little bit.
Okay. Beginning with the start. I'm so sorry for the grainy photo. They get better as the presentation goes on. So you have about a minute from the start, which is right outside the BU dock, to the first bridge, which is the BU bridge. It'll be tagged up, beautiful. Um, what you want is to not be, you want to line up right of center on this, the only racing arch. You do not want to go to either side of it. It's not passable. So the idea is really just set yourself up to the right. Coming out of this bridge, there's a long bend off to bow side. And you want to be set up for that. It is quite long. So if you are off to the left or overlapping with the crew, if you anticipate overlapping, this is where with that overtaking, you make it very clear that your line is to the right. And this is where the start is. So orienting you up here. This is the BU boathouse. It's really beautiful. It's very obvious. Coming in also, there will be two lanes, odds and evens, and they'll alternate calling boats up and give you about 10 seconds between boats. I think look at your lineup with your coach and figure out, do you anticipate someone very fast being behind you? Do you anticipate catching whoever's in front of you right away? And figure out if you can manipulate that starting gap as much as you can so that there is no overtaking before that first bridge within that first minute, because that becomes quite messy. And you want to avoid that at the beginning of the piece. Okay. So again, right of center. This feels very narrow. I always find it very claustrophobic, and I'm terrified the blades will clip, but you do want your starboard bow side blades to be very close to the right-hand side, the abutment, which is just a cement abutment, but the bridge is low, so it feels like it will become more narrow as you go, but you want to stay very close to that right side. And as you can see here, this is the only passable arch. There's only one place to go. Okay. And I've already said this all out loud, but just to recap, give yourself space to have a clean start, no overtaking before this bridge. That means your first 1 minute, you are just locked in. There's nothing but your crew getting up and running onto your rhythm. Nothing else should matter. And anticipate that once you come out of this bridge, you'll pick up a white buoy line on your right-hand side on the starboard bow side. And that, again, you can put everything over. You can keep your blades very close to them. You can float all the way over them, but that's going to be your first big bend of the course,
And
which then leads you into powerhouse.
I think as well, don't underestimate. Anytime you are on a turn on this course, it's a turn. We are shaving the meters off. So really
Yeah.
switched on from the get-go, really switched on of if there's a turn and you're on the inside of it, we're shaving off time. You can have the blades over it. We don't want the hull to go over it, and then really kind of looking ahead. So this next section of the track, so called the powerhouse stretch, focus on the first word, powerhouse. You can really get stuck into this part of the race. It's pretty straight, and we're going to kind of talk through what you want to aim for and what you can get done in this section. So we want to think about, you're looking ahead, you're looking for the next bridges that are coming up, and we always want to think about, you're going to pick the middle arch, and you can pick a line that's in the center. So it would be unusual for you to kind of go a little bit further towards the Cambridge shore. So that's on your bow side, your starboard side. I got that right?
Mm-hmm. You do get that right.
So it would be more unusual if you're going to try and get sucked into that side. You don't need to. The beauty of your headings is if you point your bow ball at something, that's where you're going to go. So you're looking for that center arch. It's going to give you something to aim at. And you've got a good 1,100 meters to really get some work done. And that's solid rhythm, good connection. Have a think about the crews that are around you. Am I making progress in the crew in front of me? Am I pulling away from who's behind me? Or are they catching up me? You want to have a bit of an idea of who's around and that awareness. Next slide, please. So you're going to go through, ideally, the center arch for both of these. You can go through either of the two arches, but I would aim for that center arch. It's going to set you up quite nicely. The Western Avenue Bridge, that's going to be your second bridge. It can get busy here. It is a good time to kind of overtake on this stretch. You don't want to put yourself towards the port or the stroke side of that arch itself. We want to be either central or slightly towards the bow side, and it's going to set you up later on for your big old 90-degree turn that you're going to be coming up to in weeks. But if you need to do some overtaking, this straight section is quite a nice time to do that. And that might be through a technical focus. It might be through trying to be a bit springier. Have a think about what your boat needs, feel what's going on, and make an informed decision from that.
I will add in, if you look at the map here, from the start, you've taken a 90-degree turn to get to that powerhouse stretch. The conditions will be different. So if the start is horrendous, it will become very calm. Once you get to this powerhouse stretch, it's very narrow. There's cement walls on either side. It's a little more protected. But if you're protected at the start, there's a chance you'll come around this turn to a screaming headwind coming down that stretch. And I think figuring out how to have your crew anticipate that or planning around these things is important to know when conditions will be good, when they'll be bad, not good and bad, more challenging or not, but what technically too your crew needs during XYZ conditions. Okay, so you've gone through the powerhouse. You're coming up on weeks, which is where things start getting very exciting. Western Ave is the second of those two bridges on the powerhouse stretch. You must be center or right of center on that bridge. If you are too far to the left on this, so left of this yellow line, you will be in a very challenging place to get through weeks well. If there are boats around you, it's even harder, but it's really hard to recover this far, being that far over of the racing track, that far left. So stay parallel to the Boston shore, which is the one on your left, on your port stroke side. You want to be parallel to that shore. That's the one you're going off of now. And you want to be right of center, center really on that bridge. As we see, center, center for both. Weeks not recommended, like no way. Unless you are going to smash into something, do not go into this far right arch for Weeks footbridge. You will, once you come through Western Ave, you will pick up an orange red buoy line on your port side. And so that's the one, you see it out of the corner of your eye. It's really easy to get sucked over there. Stay strong and really think about staying away from it, center of the river. And we're going to stay on that line until you're about 100, 150 meters from the bridge. And you're thinking, here you can see this line of red buoys, and you're like, I do not want to pass them. You want to be steering, you can pick up, you'll see the blue art or the blue dome up here. What you want to do is when you're about 200 meters out from the bridge, there is this middle orange arrow is over like a drain pipe. And I find if you're in a bow fort, very easy to see. In an 8, a little harder, but you can see it. Just going at that. And that will be, you will stay parallel to the Boston shore as you approach. Stay on that line until you start seeing the Boston port side, stroke side shores starting to curve. And that's when you'll pick up the blue dome with about 100 meters to go. There's a cherry tree here that a lot of people call the turning tree of when you start that turn. I personally don't use it. I like just feeling where I am in relation to the Boston shore and following this go. So it's like when you're even with that tree, you can start making the turn like you pick up the blue dome. There's another version of it here. This was actually from this morning. I was out with the Radcliffe Lightweight Women. So there are no orange buoys out there, but you can see this boat, the farthest one up on the 8, like you can tell as they are now making the turn, approaching the Weeks Bridge, but that she was lined up with that blue dome. And you can see it feels like you are going way off towards Cambridge, but you are actually very parallel with that Boston shore. So keeping in mind those parallel lines and aiming at that blue dome. It feels counterintuitive, so hold yourself, like look up and stick to your guns on that. And this is what that cherry tree looks like, which is where you would really want to start to make that turn if you're looking on that side for a steering signal. But once you get close, you're coming in under that 100 meters. You want to start swinging down. So if you've got the dome, you're coming down, you're doing the right abutment. And then you're going to slowly swing your bow across so that your point is the right-hand abutment of the center arch here. Now, you want to steer towards that until you are about 1.5 lengths away from the bridge. And then you are going hard over all the way on the rudder towards port. If you need it, your starboard side, bow side can really push on it, particularly your bow and 3 seat. In an 8, it takes about 7 strokes. And so you want to have from that moment to being coming out of the bridge is 7 strokes. I would tell your team that, right? Like it's going to be on set. It's going to be a little, it's going to be loud as you cut really like diagonally through this bridge, sort of the angle of that orange arrow. And you want to build up a little speed. Sometimes I'll call a burst if we're not doing, if we're kind of like struggling with rhythm or speed. Call it 5 for power to get up, lift the boat up with speed, hard on the steering. And then once you're straight after those 7 strokes, say like we're going to take 5 more to build up speed as we come straight out into in 1, 5 now. You're straight and the boat can really pick up after you're done steering because it's so disruptive and really scrubs the speed. When you do it right, based on that of like swinging around and then really going hard, your stroke side blades should pass within inches of the back corner of this left-hand abutment. So you are really going diagonally through this bridge. And you will come out pointing at the center of the Anderson Bridge center arch. So that it is, you want to wait like coming in wide and then hard, thinking about lining up your exit as Morgan pitched all of this. The exit is what matters because there is very, very frequently you come in narrow and then enter narrow and come out wide and you really lose like lengths of speed and distance.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the thing I would add on that is, um, as soon as you are going through the bridge, you need to be looking at that Anderson Bridge and pointing your
mhm,
barbel at that center of that arch. And it's like there are two kind of people on the track. There'll be one who basically celebrates that they've made it through weeks and they're like, "Hell yeah, we made it through weeks. Let's go." And then there's another who has already forgotten about weeks because they're already through it. They're focusing on Anderson. They've already reset their rhythm. They're still focusing on what their boat feels like and they've cracked on with the rest of their race. You want to be the
mhm,
second person. You want to be driving that crew on. You want to be driving your boat. Your foot is always on the gas. You're always thinking about the next processes that you need to do and follow. And I would say that it can be really egged on to be a bit of a big deal. You know, taking weeks, taking Elliot
mhm.
can seem like a big deal, but there are processes that allow you to do it. And if you follow those processes, it gives you the best chance. And if you can kind of picture in your head the line that your hull would draw, if you looked at kind of look back and looked at the mark in the water, if you can picture that and picture what you're aiming for, and then in the present assess where you are and you know where you need to be, that helps you make those decisions of, do you know what? I think I might need to put a pause in here to reposition myself around this crew to crack on so that I don't crash and I end up in the right position to make this turn for weeks. Or you might be thinking, yeah, okay, I've checked my headings, I've checked my position, I'm in the right place, and we're going to do the next part of the race plan. So don't get stuck on simply the achievement of the bridge. You know, remain focused on the rest of the plan and the rest of your objectives. These are just some pictures of kind of the other angle of
Mhm.
what we're trying to achieve and aim. So you can see you are quite literally sending it a 90-degree turn. And as we said about that initial turn at the start, anytime you go round a corner, the conditions are likely to change. And so
Yeah.
some people worry about what they might say. You're probably going to say something about those conditions and how you might change that rowing to sort of help yourselves out a little bit there.
hmm This is to give you an idea too. This is looking upstream, downstream towards it. So this would be boats would be coming at us through this bridge. So think too, if this is like the shadow of this bridge is actually like exactly, almost exactly the line you would want to be taking out. And if you kind of like look straight up, like there is no river really on the other side of it. Like that's how drastic that turn is. To Morgan's point, you cannot make this turn overlapped with another boat at all. Oh wait, we're in per. Okay, never mind. We're here. Did we do this already?
No, we're good.
We're good. Okay, here
This
we
this is
are.
that's where we're up to.
I should have been put in charge of the slides.
No, we're all kosher. So what I would add as well is you know there is ample time coming up to weeks to think, Do I have enough room to make the turn? If you're
Hmm.
getting to weeks and then you suddenly think, oh, there's a crew next to me and I'm in the wrong place, you have not been thinking far enough ahead. So that might be a harsh lesson to learn, but we really want to be aware of who's around us so that we can put our boat in the best position, but also so that we can communicate with the crews around us so that we can all carry on and have our kind of best race. So the comms between coxes can be extraordinary and that can allow you to do some really incredible things. I think that's
And
you.
adding on to that, yeah, to that point, as you come up 2 weeks, you have a left-hand turn, a right-hand turn, and then a very big left-hand turn. And so this is like what Morgan's talking about of have this as part of a bigger plan. You need to figure out how to have the best place to be so that A, you're not crashing, but B, also you're lined up, you're making decisions on the powerhouse stretch so that you are not on the outside of one boat or two on this very long bend in front of Elliot. And so all of those pieces have to add up for you to be in the right place, which is coming up to the Lars Anderson Bridge. You want to be lined up in the middle of it, start to take the turn before you get to the bridge, and you want your bow side, starboard blades very close to this right hand abutment of the center arch. So that you come out of this is very, I think, to the point everyone gets very excited about nailing weeks and then they kind of screw up Anderson. So it's really think of them as like a 1-2, you've got to nail both.
Mhm.
And then coming out of Anderson, look up, take a line. There is a low rectangular white building straight ahead, and there's like an air conditioning condensing unit up at the very top, and that's your line that you want to take out of Anderson. You can only take the middle arch. This is it right here. And so coming out, this is what I'm talking about with the orange arrow. Line up on that. The river belly is out, particularly off to your left where the Harvard Men's Boathouse is. On your right, you'll be coming up on the 2 mile marker. There will really be no race buoy lines here. And so you're sort of on your own and you can get sucked over to the left really easily. Keep your line on this white air conditioning unit. And what will happen is as you go, these orange buoy line on your left, which is the barrier on the Elliott Bridge or the Elliott turn, will like come to you. Let them come to you by holding this line. And that's the fastest way you can easily swing around in this big space. Lining up on the Big Ben. I will point out on the left here, there is some construction along the shore. And so the warm-up area is pushed out. I don't know if it actually makes the course longer because of how wide it has to go, but just be aware that in the warm-up, crews have to navigate this pretty big construction area downstream of Elliott on this big bend. And so go slow. And as you're warming up, make sure you give yourself enough steering, like whether you have pairs out and someone adds in to move it, but you can navigate around this so that this is one of those cases where you do not want to cross the yellow or the orange buoy line because that's when you get in trouble and you can get a penalty for going onto the race course. So I think that's it again. So we go left-hand turn at Weeks, right-hand turn through Lars Anderson, left around Elliott, hard right-hand turn for the last stretch to the finish line. So we're always thinking 2 moves ahead, but imagine that this is a very quiet no man's land, but that you're lining up this very long left-hand turn to a very sharp right-hand turn on the other side.
Okay, the Elliott Bridge and people this is an exciting one. There's going to be a lot of people around. It'll be really loud and that turn is long and then suddenly very tight. And again, we're really thinking about, yes, we want to be on the inside of that turn, but we want to think about what is the exit angle that we're going to be driving the other side of the bridge that we know that's coming up. So we've got a little bit of construction. New this year means that you cannot go through the arch that's the Cambridge arch. So if you're in the racing line and you're facing the bridge, it's the arch that's closest to the bank on your starboard or your bow side. Really, you don't really want to be going through there anyway. So, this might help you with a little bit of a faster line if you ever thought you were going to take a little trip down there. You'd only go through there in case of an emergency. And we don't have to worry about that this year. So just remembering that's closed off. And so everyone is definitely going to be aiming for that center arch now more than ever.
Amazing. We also just got some intel. Most likely this construction, which is this teal box up here in the return lane, should be removed. Should be removed by racing. So keep an eye on whether that is there or not.
So have a think here about there's a real fine balance between following the orange buoys or the orange buoy line so that you're tight on the turn, but also looking through the bridge so that you get this almost diagonal crossing through the bridge right. And you're going to be looking and aiming for a dock that's on the other side of the bridge, and it'll have a buoy on it. So it's usually a bit of a stripy buoy. We've put on here that it kind of looks like the cat in the hat. So green stripy buoy is so you're trying to see through the bridge, and that's what you're pointing your bow at. So yes, we want to be tight on that turn. Yes, we want to be coming around the turn, and you want to think about it like I'm coming tight around that bend until I can see through the bridge, and then I'm going to point my bow through that bridge. It is possible to fit multiple crews through the center arch of this bridge, but if we're trying to kind of cut meters off, you are going to be wanting to go through at an angle, so that is going to eliminate the ability to get multiple crews through. So this is why we talk about really driving your future boat position, and that is why when you're coming through all the way back at the Anderson Bridge is thinking, am I in a position to end up on the inside of this turn, or right now am I going to be on the outside of it? And just really thinking ahead to set yourself up. Being mindful of those crews that are in the warm-up areas as well. And I would say at this point in the race, people are going to be pretty tired. So calls around keeping people sharp, keeping them in good positions. That's going to really help you, because if the blades are still going in the water, that's going to help you steer. As soon as those blades stop going in effectively, it's a lot harder to put that boat where you want it to go.
It's also going under Elliott is the echo under there is really fun to play with. If you have your like banger call that you're going to use for the last 1,000 meters of the race, doing it well timed under Elliott to get it really going is a very fun way. If you have a crew that's going well and they need that extra gear that you think they can get, like that can be sort of a change maker, which is fun to play with. We already did that.
You are going to be close to the green buoys once you've come diagonally through that bridge. There's going to be a lot of people on that dock. So just being aware that we want to be close to it, but we don't necessarily want to absolutely nail it and hit it. Remember that you are now on the final tight turn around to that bow side, around to that starboard side. People will go through the bridge and forget that they've got one more turn to make. And this is where crews lose time, and they actually can end up losing, a pennant or a good pole position for them. So it's really important that we're nailing that positioning, make sure we still continue to take that turn. You can run your blades under the bushes. You should be fine. You want to make sure that you're looking ahead again to see the point where the shore's going to kind of cut away from you, the water's going to widen again, and we're looking for a straight shot to the finish line. And I always think the finish line markers, they look like two big Dorito boys. So looking ahead, trying to find that. If we think a little bit about strategy, I think this is an awesome clip. So Yas Farouk did a Charles webinar back into 2021. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's absolutely brilliant. And these are some screenshots from that. So this is the Washington single sculler. He's come through Elliott Bridge on the outside of what will be this final bowside turn. And what he actually does is he puts a pause in to end up on the inside and then carries on. And that is the sort of thinking that allows you to do really incredible things at the Charles. the fastest route and the fastest line isn't always going to be just ploughing on and moving forwards. Sometimes a pause or one side dropping out is the fastest way to change your angle and then put you in a better position for that next turn. So, really understanding that is what can unlock some really cool steering and really cool lines. So, I would recommend go and watch that video. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, and then that takes us. Do you do anything else, or should we just go on finish line?
No, I think this is a good run up. We're coming around that inside turn. We're ploughing towards the finishing stretch. Now it's over to you.
The Dorito
The Doritos,
boys.
they do look like little nacho chips.
It kind of widens out. You're really close to the bushes, and then all of a sudden it all drops away. Find a straight line to the Triangle Boys, and you're there. Um, and you have to keep going. You can't just stop. That's the other thing. Everyone will yell at you. So you'll finish, come down, paddle round, and then there will be a launch that will say, okay, which way are you going? Do you need to turn around? Do you continue on upstream to one of the boathouses to dock? And that is the end of your race. Um,
I absolutely, I love that about the Charles, right? So you come through Elliott Bridge and it's like the grand finale. You're closing in, it's your last kind of, 800 meters. You're taking that turn, you're thinking you're crushing it, 600 is left. You're driving those gears. At this point, if you aren't covered, if you're in an eight, if you aren't covered in your stroke seat saliva, they've not been going hard. And then, you cross the finish line, and actually, you do have to keep going. And I think that's actually really important to remember. Is as a Cox, you need to be aware that you are going to cross that finish line, and someone is going to be on you immediately to keep going, and no one
yeah.
is going to want to go. So as soon as you cross that line, look behind you, see who is up close to you, because we don't want any collisions at that little point. We can still lose time, we can still get time taken off of us. And then in whatever way possible, even if it's just politely saying, guys, just come up and down the slide and gently square the blades. That'll buffer the lactate. Whatever it is you've got to say to them to keep them moving is going to really help you, because what we don't want is you've done all this awesome work, this hard work, you've come down the track, you've had a great time, you've had a good race, and then our last little bits of navigation to either get through the finish area, turn around and come back to where you've boated from. If we lose concentration there and we do something silly, that can cost us our race, and that's really not what we want. Final thought. So again, think about the Charles as a Formula One track. You're setting yourself up to drive literally the shortest and the fastest line. And you can see it as a bit of a game. So people say that if we're saying kind of kilometers, about 5 kilometers. I always think if you can get your speed coach to say 4.7 kilometers to 4.8k, you've probably done a pretty good job. If you can get under 4.7, then you've done an incredible job. So it is honestly one of those tracks where you are trying to cut as many meters off as you can, and that's why it's much more like the F1 rather than our smooth turns of the head of the river. And then just, drive in the future, drive those exit angles. It's not necessarily about your entry, it's about your exit, and it's about thinking ahead. If you think ahead, you're going to be able to do some really cool things. Anything else from you, Katie?
I think I yes to all of that. I always love these webinars because I just want to be like taking notes of whatever Morgan says. I think visualization is really important. Look through the map a lot. Write down a race plan. Like you could be totally on your own. You could be passing 10 crews in this course. You don't know. And that's the exciting part, but it's also the nerve-wracking part. So go through each part in the race of if I'm overtaking, if I'm being overtaken, or if I'm all alone, what am I thinking about? What am I looking at? What am I talking about? And if you can do that at all of those big moments that we just identified during this webinar, and you've kind of gone through it of what you would do in each of those situations. What I say, what am I thinking about? What am I doing? Where do we want to be in 500 meters, 1000 meters, 1500 meters from here? Then, if you feel like you have that, then whatever crazy things happen out there on the race course, you've already done a lot of thinking. And so it's not new. It's not this fresh panic. You're like, okay, I've gone through this before. Talk to your coach. Talk to anyone that's raced this before as you come through, then make this little matrix for yourself in the next week. And that is a really good way to prepare. So then also you're not freaking out during the race. You've done your prep and you can enjoy it because this is a really special event. And that way too, like you can get into the flow. Things will slow down for you and you can be in the moment and appreciate nailing Weeks, nailing Anderson, putting in the pause to get the line that you want, and you can be in the moment and enjoy it rather than crossing the line and thinking that was terrifying and what did I even say, right? Like that visualization and that prep can get you in a place to have fun and enjoy it.
Guys, if you've got any
Um,
questions, I think you're able to pop them in the chat. So if you do have any, pop them through, and we'll see if we can kind of answer them between us.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
And if you've got a question you don't necessarily want to ask of it now, life jacket. You don't need a life jacket at the head of the trials.
No.
Which is a weird feeling when you are used to wearing one, but you don't need one. If you feel like you want to wear one, I think you can. I don't think there's anything that says you can't wear it. But you don't need to wear a life jacket. Other people won't be wearing it. Any other questions? Also, if you go away and you think, oh, I thought of something, I really want to ask that, just drop us an email, thewinningcocks@gmail.com, nice and easy, or send us a message on Instagram and we will get back to you about that.
I'm
Also,
also looking at the weather. Weather looks decent. Just be ready. The wind is cold. The mornings will be colder than the afternoons. So just have the right amount of layers to stay warm. You'll be on the water for a long time. And depending on where you boat from, you have a long time to warm up or you have a long time to row home after the race. Be warm because cold coxes make bad decisions. So be warm. Take care of yourself when you are out there. But it looks like knocking on wood, it should be dry, which is great. And a little overcast, so it should be nice.
um, you guys are in absolute luck and a little treat because myself, Katie, and then a few other Wox mentors will actually be at the head of the trials. So if you see us around, come say hey. If you've got any questions, then you can ask them. But we obviously love chatting boat, and if you want to have some boat chat, then please come and find us. If there aren't any other questions, that is going to be it from us. So thank you very much for coming along. Hopefully you found that useful. And yeah, please follow us, The Winning Cocks, on the old socials. And good luck. Have a great time out there. Thank you very much.